Welcome to the Steve and Bethany podcast.
It's your weekly dose of hope, encouragement, and a whole lot of fun.
All right, let's get to it. Okay, hey, welcome in. It's Steve and Bethany's Hopecast. It's our very first one. We have video.
We do. I like this. It's multi-angle. We got lots of options going on here.
Yeah.
There's lighting.
The logo is up nice.
All kinds of cool stuff.
It really is cool. So let's just jump into the Hopecast here. So let's answer some frequently asked questions, or maybe questions that people are going, why should I care about these two? So Steve and Bethany, who are they? What would your answer be to that?
I would say, first of all, we're not married.
That's correct.
We're not.
Where's the sound effect?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that one. Where's
that one.
Where's like a ding 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 sound effect?
That's creepy.
That's not that would be a correct answer. So let's start again. What the correct answer would be?
We're not married. We're not like father daughter. Uncles, cousins, any kind of relation there. What are you doing with the board?
I'm just playing with the board.
We're not related, but we are kind of, would you call us ex-coworkers? And current, what are you?
I didn't do it. Okay. So yeah,
we're ex-coworkers?
We are.
But current coworkers now.
We are now, because we're going into business for ourselves with this thing. Because back in 2016? 2016. Bethany's dad, who is a friend of mine, came to the radio station where I was working at and said, hey, would you show my daughter around the station? So I did, and then down the road, a couple of months, here and there and yon, Bethany comes on, and she's just going to do traffic for me on a morning show. And it turns out that the best stuff was
overwhelmed by my talent.
Yeah, I was, because the stuff that was going on off mic was so much better than was going on mic.
Right.
So we made the switch right there, and became a Steve and Bethany show. And so we've moved away from radio, and we're decided to try to take a leap and to jump into this by ourselves.
Well, I think kind of because we're good friends, just period. And we, like you kind of mentioned before, like we've always gotten along really well, always had a good vibe, always had a good chemistry. And so even though there's about 20 years-ish between us, we just get along well. We're buddies. And so we kind of figured, hey, let's capitalize on this. Even though we're not working together anymore, let's start a podcast.
And because we have such a different generational outlook on life, I've been through so much stuff already, being so much older than you are, because I'm not quite old enough to be your dad, but kind of, almost. Well, almost. Yeah. And so just go with me on this. Okay. I'm not quite old enough to be your dad.
You're like cool uncle.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And so I'm a Gen Xer, you're a millennial, and so we bring those kind of viewpoints to the table here. But the main reason I think we've decided to do this podcast is not only because of our friendship and because we have a good chemistry on air together, but I was looking through the podcast landscape, and there's nothing like what I think we're going to bring. What we want to do is we want to bring hope. We want to bring a real hope to everyday life.
Right. Just kind of talk about our lives. You know, I'm married, you're married, you have kids, so we have different, we're in different life stages just as people, but talk about what's going on in our life, but also have a positive outlook, because there's so much going on right now that's negative. Obviously, we're in the middle of the coronavirus right now, and things are crazy, and so we're wanting to kind of bring a little bit more of a positive spin on things, and be real and be open, and I mean, talk about funny things that happened and just life.
Yeah, and I think we can bring a spiritual component to this. We're not going to be all preachy and pointing fingers and all that kind of thing, but in the midst of everything that's going on, I think we see just a real lack of hope in people's lives and in people's just existences. And I think we can, or at least what we're going to try to do, is bridge that gap a little bit to show that in every situation you can find God in. Because I think it gets tough sometimes, even for you and I, who are both believers and have been for most of our lives. Yeah, it can be hard sometimes. Life can be really hard and difficult. How do you take that difficulty and find the true hope? Not the hope of, I just cross my fingers and put good vibes out into the universe kind of hope, but real rock solid hope. How do we do that? And that's one of the things we want to try to tackle.
And that's kind of something that I've noticed a lot on social media, especially since all this stuff happened, is just how different people are approaching quarantine, virus stuff, all of that. And honestly, some of the repercussions that have happened, I know a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people just feel this sense of uncertainty. And I think all of us feel that to a certain extent. It's kind of hard not to. I went grocery shopping with my husband last week, I think it was. And I just said, this is just weird. It just feels like a movie, like how everybody's acting and just, I don't know, all of these kind of new rules and regulations. It just feels very strange. And even though I know it's necessary to wear gloves and the mask and all of that stuff, and that's important, it just still feels foreign and weird. But I think kind of the difference between somebody that has their hope and their faith in Jesus versus somebody that doesn't is it just kind of this steadiness through all of this. And I've had my moments. I'm not going to say, oh no, I'm fine through this whole thing. It's been hard, but you do have this sense of, above all, God's sovereign, and he knew that this was happening and this was going to come. And so it's not anything that's taken him off guard or brought a surprise.
But see, a lot of times that is so easy for us to say that.
But to live it out's a little bit harder.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have experienced a little bit of cutback on hours at your real job.
Yeah.
I really haven't been too affected by it, but there are people who have lost their jobs that have and some of them, it's their own business that they worked and poured their whole heart and life into. And now all of a sudden they're looking around going, are you kidding me? I've lost everything now. And I mean, that's where we want to try to tackle things. Cause I think that's where people really live, is in those areas. And we're going to make this interactive as much as we can. We want to be a community. Just because we have the headphones on and sit and talk in front of the microphone, we want to be able to hear from you and to interact with you about things in your life, and to try to find out where you get your real hope, how you handle situations, because it can be different for everybody.
Right.
Even though we all, as believers, look to the same source, our lives are different, and we go through different experiences, and we can all learn from one another. I think back, this was really something that spoke to me yesterday. My pastor preached on a sermon yesterday on the online thing, but he used this song, Praise You in the Storm from Casting Crowns. And it took me back to, what year was this? This was 15 years ago, I guess. I had lost my job in another town. I had actually moved my family away to this other job, and I'd been made a lot of promises, and one by one, they kind of started not coming true. So it got to the point where I was actually let go. And in the midst of all that, I felt like, and I still do to this day, that I did everything right. I didn't repay anger for anger. When I was accused of something, I admitted to it if it was my fault, and I didn't hold a grudge. I felt like I did everything correctly, but yet I still lost my job. And it still was hard because, I had a child that was already about ready to start kindergarten and a new one that had just come 6 months earlier.
Yeah.
So, there's 4 of us that had moved away, and now all of a sudden in a 15-month period of time, it's all gone.
And you weren't the only one being affected, like you said, it's your whole family.
Right, yeah, it's my whole family.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, how is this gonna work? And I first get back to our original town. We moved away. We came back to our original house. In fact, we're still in that same house, and it was great. I was thinking, okay, well, because I had people calling me. I had people wanting to find out what my situation was. And so I'm thinking, okay, this may be the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm going to get a chance to really start and spread my wings and whatever, right? So I start having interviews, and I start having phone calls, and I start sending resumes out, not only locally, but nationally. And I'm getting people interested, and I'm having good conversations and making network contacts and all that kind of stuff, right? And slowly, over time, after a couple of months, the interview stopped. After a couple of months, the callback stopped. After a couple of months, the email stopped. And I sit back and I wonder, okay, God, I have done everything I think correctly, but yet there's no light at the end of the tunnel yet.
Yeah.
And I think in those situations, you only do what you know to do, which to me at the time was, all I knew to do was pray, and all I knew to do was read my Bible. I didn't know what else to do, right? I'm trying my hardest, but nothing's working. And I get to the point where I'm just about ready to just say, God, I don't get it. And I would get frustrated, get angry. And the song, Praise You in the Storm, came on the radio. Not once, not twice. In an 8-month period of time, every time I was ready just to throw in the towel, that song came on the radio.
So it's kind of like the anthem through that whole season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it perfectly is. And now, if you're an old jaded radio person like I am, you'd say, well, okay, well, that was when the song was new and so it was very popular, so they played it a lot in heavy rotation. Okay, here's my answer to that, because like you talked about the sovereignty of God.
Yeah.
The guy that wrote that song is a guy named Mark Hall. He's the lead singer of Casting Crowns. I think, not the only reason, but a primary reason why he actually wrote that song when he did and recorded it, and it came out at the time that it did, was because, at least in part, God knew that Steve Marston was going to need to hear that.
Right.
And, and I know that sounds egotistical, and that sounds like, come on, does God... Yes, I think he does.
Well, there's probably a million stories that are just like that, where that song spoke to someone specifically. And you and I both working in radio, like, we've heard that story before of us playing a song, and it's nothing that we did. We just hit play, but somebody hearing it at just the right time, and it spoke to them in a way that can't be really explained, or something that we weren't even trying to, to do. But it's just the person being there where God intended them to be.
And the thing is, if you're in that situation and you find yourself wondering, I don't know which way is up. Man, I have tried everything. I have done everything, quote unquote, by the book, what you would expect a Christian to do.
Yeah.
And I'm still floundering. I'm still wondering. All I know is that God is there. He knows that you're there. He knows that you're going through that. Just keep that in mind, and you just got to keep doing what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And even, one of the things was, and again, I don't say this to brag or whatever, but one of the things my wife and I committed to do, even through that time of unemployment, was to continue to tithe to our church.
Yeah.
And people were like, wait a minute, that sounds weird. Why would you, you don't have any income coming in to speak of, and yet you're going to send it out? I mean, that is, but my wife and I, for us, we prayed about it. We thought about it. That was something we needed to do.
Yeah.
Now, did that help get us closer? I don't know. I can't tell you if it did or not, if it made any difference or not. I think in my mind, I was being obedient.
Yeah.
So I think that I like to think that it helped, but I don't know that it did. I can't tell you for sure.
But we're called to be obedient regardless.
Exactly.
Our circumstances don't define whether or not we should obey God.
That's the point.
That's not how that is. Yeah.
But if that's you, just know that I've been there, and I know, you haven't lived long enough, thankfully, yet, but you're coming. Yeah. Your day's coming where things are going to happen, and you do everything right, and man, it just doesn't work out, and you can't figure out what God's up to. And if that's your case, man, know first of all that we're glad you're watching. We're glad you're a part of this, because that's what we want to do. We want to bring the hope of Christ to you.
Yeah, and our goal is to kind of brighten up your day a little bit, but also provide you with gospel-centered truths, things that we've learned in our lives and our spiritual journeys, but also have fun. I mean, this is a real friendship. This is a real conversation. We want to hear from you guys that are listening and watching. We want to be a part of your lives.
And that's the second part of it. So we will tackle some of the kind of the deep minutia stuff of life, the nitty gritty of life.
That's a big word.
Well, I know.
Look at you.
It's something I can't spell, but I use it a lot. We're gonna try to tackle those kind of things, and obviously, as you just heard, we're not the burning bush. We don't have all the answers. You know what I mean?
No.
But we have gone through experiences, and we want to share that with you, and hopefully bring some hope to you through that. But we also are going to tackle some of the fun stuff,
Well, I mean, I had an experience like this where, like, I was walking through the parking lot of Kroger, and the woman in front of me, I was walking to my car with my cart, and groceries and everything. The lady in front of me starts singing full out opera. And, like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, it just happened. She's in front of me and starts singing. And I was looking at my husband, and I was like, are you hearing this? And he was like, just stop laughing. And I said, a woman's singing opera in the middle of the parking lot. I'm not supposed to laugh? Like, come on. She didn't have headphones on or anything. She just felt like it. I said, girl, do it.
There you go. There you go.
But we're going to talk about those things that really happen.
And stuff that maybe have happened in the world too, some of the fun stories and some of the positive stories that maybe don't get trumpeted enough. Like, for instance, a friend of mine had a picture of hers go viral just the other day.
What happened?
It was really cool. Because right now the picture has, if I remember right, about 5,800 comments and like 33,000 shares. So she was babysitting her granddaughter, who's, I don't know, maybe 3 years old, 4 years old, something like that. And the granddaughter looks out and sees a UPS truck coming by. She goes, "That's my daddy," and runs out. Well, and the grandmother was like, "No, that's not your daddy, baby, because we live in another city, so your dad's there." And so, and then she came back and says, "No, Nana, that's not my daddy, because my daddy is bald and this guy has hair." Okay. Well, now the kicker of the story is the UPS driver happens to be a black guy, and the little granddaughter happens to be a little white girl.
Yeah.
And so my friend put on the post about how isn't it great the way children look at life.
That's
and stuff.
so cool.
And it really came out to so many people. Saw the positive in that and saw the hope in that and really started commenting and sharing their own experiences.
I love that.
So it was neat. It was really
we'll be sharing like more of that stuff.
Yeah, in fact, we'll be able to use the magic of video wall here and be able to put it up on the wall and let you see that and all that kind of stuff. So, and then other things we're going to do, we're going to have some fun with contesting. We're in the process of getting together some contests. We're going to have our website. We're going to have some merchandise for you. We're going to have a Patreon account where we can, again, just get closer to you.
Maybe throw in a few perks, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like one of the ideas I'm an idea guy, right?
I know you are.
I mean, that's kind of my calling card. My favorite thing is, what if we did this?
My favorite texts from Steve generally start with, "Hey, what if we did this?"
Yeah, right.
That's and they're sent at like 11 o'clock at night.
Right. Well, because like sometimes, like last night, this is for real. Like last night, had trouble sleeping because I knew we were going to do this today, and I was like, what if we did this? What if we did that? And I couldn't shut down. And I'm like, I got to get up in the morning.
See, my ideas come to me like 5 days before I need them, and then I forget about them. Right. That's how my brain works, which is why I need you. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do on Patreon, we want to do a lot of fun stuff, including like little virtual coffee houses.
Yeah.
The Zoom is so big right now, the social meeting, what do you call it? Meetings, social.
Like, I think is it virtual conferencing?
Virtual conferencing.
Something
there
like
you go.
that,
Where's
maybe.
No. There you go. Virtual conferencing.
We're still figuring out the sound
We're going to get the sound effects down.
We will. We just need to do
TJ,
little labels.
That's what we get. We're going to have you fix this.
Yeah, can we get a label maker?
Yeah, we need labels.
That's
what we need is labels,
these
TJ.
colors are kind of similar, so we can...
TJ doesn't know this, but he's going to get blamed for everything. There's never going to be any
By
credit.
you.
Whenever something goes wrong, we're going to scream out TJ.
TJ,
what's wrong, man?
TJ's our producer right over there.
Yeah, we're going to need him on camera at some point.
We do,
but not right now. We don't give him a big head.
Not right now.
We need to.
It's only the first episode.
So anyway, we'll use like the Zoom and everything for like a virtual
kind of like
coffee
a hangout.
house.
Yeah,
just kind of a hangout.
Even though Steve doesn't drink coffee, we're going to pour some like Diet Coke or something in a coffee mug, and we're all going to drink coffee together.
And just hang out like once a month.
Whatever you feel like drinking that day, like Diet Coke for Steve. And just talk about life, hang out a little bit, get some questions from you, hear a little bit more about you. It'll be
Absolutely.
fun.
And then we're going to, like I say, have some T-shirts, and we're going to have all kinds of stuff that we're going to think of on the fly to be able to, which by the way, TJ, you need to learn this too. I'm very much on the fly kind of guy. So sometimes she just rolled her eyes.
Yes. Steve flies by the seat of his pants more than anyone I've ever met.
Okay.
A lot of your things work out though. It's not a bad thing.
And bless your heart, and seriously, God bless you for being able to put up with it. Because there were times when a song we would have, Bethany and I would say, because Bethany's a planner.
I am. Okay. I like to know what we're doing. What did I text you earlier today? Do you remember?
You said, "What's the plan for today?"
I said, "What's the game plan?"
Yeah.
So I like to know, details.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there would be times when we were working together in music radio where we would say, "Okay," we'd have it planned out.
Yeah.
Where we would say, "Okay, we're going to talk about this out of this song," and then literally like. I don't know, 30 seconds left in the song, something springs into my mind, whether it be something about the song or something else that won't fit as well in my mind. So I was like, hey, let's do this. And we have to change on the fly. And you did a great job just following.
Well, thank you. But oftentimes it wouldn't even have that much detail.
Well, I know.
Steve would just be like, hey, follow my lead.
Well, yeah.
And then that's it. Like no context. But, that's kind of what's fun. I think we balance each other out a little bit. Your wife and I have actually talked about this. About how in your work life and in your personal life, our role is to just rein you in. It's just to go like this.
Well, see, because that is my personality.
That's
I'm
what
like,
we do.
It's like with TJ. I think TJ and I were talking about this. I'm one of these guys that I want to jump in and I'll find out how deep the water is.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with it when I get in the water.
And I'm putting on my scuba mask.
You're putting on a life jacket and everything.
Life jacket, floaties, and I'm like, hold on, everybody.
And that's right. Yeah, that's what I told TJ. I told TJ the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I said, Bethany, because when he first said, hey, you think Bethany would come in and work with you and everything?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, let me call her. And what did you say?
I think I said,
you
yeah,
stalled.
but like I have
No,
to.
you didn't say yeah. You kind of stalled.
Did I?
You were like, well, let me think about it, and then talk to my husband Cody and the whole thing.
Well, I always have to talk to Cody.
Well, no, I know you do.
He's the soundboard.
Well,
Come
I know.
on.
Well, I know
he balances me out. So like I rein you in, he reins me in. It's the circle of life.
It's a nice circle of life. That's exactly what it is. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of what the Hopecast is going to be about. And more, and like I say, probably the thing that we should underline the most is the fact that it's about you. And it's not so much about us, but it's about us joining you in your life journey and in what you're going through, and trying just to create a little family, a little community of people. It's like, yeah, me too, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm there too.
Bringing hope into just your everyday life, talking about stories that you can relate to, but also maybe taking quite a few little bunny trails off into different stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think that there's any podcast that's like what we're going to do. So I hope you'll join us on the ride, and it'll probably change a half a dozen times the circles in and out.
We're going to figure it out.
But the overall umbrella is going to be about hope and how to get through this crazy existence,
right?
Finding the hand of God in it.
And we're really excited to have you join us on this journey. We're pumped about it. We're excited. I'm really looking forward to working with Steve again. Obviously, you're my favorite coworker I've ever had.
Yeah, and you've had like two in your life. You're like a millennial.
We're like 3. Solid 3. No, I'm really looking forward to working with Steve again and just talking about life, sharing our stories, and hearing yours as well.
So I guess that does it for our little demo of Hopecast. So there you go. And good night, Olive Branch.
I know where that's from.
Yeah, I know you do.